These are the very first JBLs that I'm reviewing, and that's primarily because a lot of viewers requested that I do these. And if I could send a message out to all the viewers who requested that I review these, I'd like to say that I'm so happy that you pushed me to do this. These are the JBL Tune 230NC. Hey guys, and welcome back. I have had a slight aversion to the way JBL has sounded in the past many years ago, but I like that they have changed for the better. But before I get into how they sound, let's deep dive into how they're built. The case comes with a matte finish, but I do wish this was done slightly differently because it doesn't really give you a premium feeling. It's more plastic than premium feeling, honestly. The front of the case has a JBL insignia which shines off our light since it's a glossy finish there. Above it are three bright LEDs that show the battery power when being charged, and the rear of the case has a USB-C charging point at the bottom. The case has a squared off edge so can sit upright quite comfortably on your desk. The lid of the case is spring loaded but doesn't behave as other earphones cases. Its spring is very sensitive to being opened, so you just have to give it a very slight push up and it springs open, which is neat. However, closing it I find rather odd because the spring has tension till very late when closing the case, so it doesn't snap shut like other cases. You have to push it much further than you'd think. This setup ensures it has a nice subtle clasping sound when closed. When you pop open the case, you're greeted by the LEDs on the earphones. The earphones are relatively easy to pluck out of the case as they're not slippery thanks to their matte finish. They also happen to have a very chunky look to them, not that they're heavy. Both earphones have JBL branding on them and have a recessed area where their touch sensors are, and they also have LEDs here for letting you know if they're ready to sync or paired to a device. The silicone ear tips have a firmer silicone attachment point so they don't unmount from the earbuds. The silicone that sits in your ear I found to be relatively comfortable and doesn't cause discomfort or fatigue over longer listening sessions. On an ingress level, these have an IP rating of IPX4, so should be fine for your workouts or light rain on your runs. These come with Bluetooth version 5.2, USB-C charging and ANC with a smart ambient feature. I'll get into this in the ANC chapter. Oddly enough, these do not have auto play and pause for when you insert and remove the earphones from your ears. Don't expect to get wireless charging with these as well. Most of its features you'll find sitting in the app, which is anything from the ANC controls, equalizer, smart audio and video, gestures, voice aware, voice assistant, find my buds and power saving. When you switch on the smart audio and video option, maximum audio quality is enabled when engaged, and video mode is to reduce latency when absorbing video or playing games. Switching between the two profiles does take a few seconds to swap between one another. Then you have your gesture controls where you sadly can't customize any tap features. You just get pre-assigned inputs which you have to select before using the earphones. On either bud, you can have your playback controls, ambient sound controls, volume controls, or your voice assistant, which you can control with single, double, triple taps or taps and holding. I wish there was a way to customize your inputs, but here we are. The voice aware feature is a neat one for people who feel uncomfortable hearing their own voices during phone calls. It does make a slight difference when on calls, but obviously can't silence your voice 100%. This also has a Find My Buds feature which lets you play back a high pitch from either of the earphones if they're in Bluetooth range to help you locate them if lost under a pillow or sofa. The power saving mode lets you decide if you want your earphones to get into a standby mode or power off when idle. This will help you stretch out the battery usage if you don't always have something playing back on them. I think this would have worked better if it had a proximity sensor to know when you took them out of your ear, because once you remove these, they keep playing back audio and wouldn't know you're not consuming any media when removed. The active noise cancelling I think is at par with the Nothing ear ones. It does a terrific job of cutting out any droning noises. Fan motor noises and engine rumbles of vehicles going past my studio are eliminated rather well with these. The mics pick up on the breeze hitting them from the fan, so do give you that slight gushing playback. ANC does not have various modes. It's either on or off. You can switch over to ambient aware mode, which is like a transparency mode, letting your surrounding sounds come in while consuming media. This mode is safer to use than ANC when you're on a walk or run outside of an enclosed space. Then you have the talk through mode, which completely bypasses your volume when you're listening to anything. It drops the audio to maybe 10% volume so you can hear what's around you better, should you want to converse with someone around. While swapping between these modes, there is an acknowledgement chime to let you know it's moving to another mode. I find this chime to be a bit on the loud side. They should have made it a lot more subtle than what it is now. And when it comes to the environmental noise cancelling, these come with 4 microphones that are supposed to help reduce the noises so that your recipient can hear you that much clearer. So how would it sound to your recipient? There's really only one way to find out. So I'm standing next to the usual busy crowded street that I normally do all of these audio tests on, just to give you a sense of what the noise is like over here with the cars going by. I think there's even some construction going on in the property behind me. So this should give you an idea of how much work these earphones are actually doing to eliminate all these noises for your recipient with the environmental noise cancelling. So I'm going to switch over from the camera audio to JBL audio right about now, just to give you a sense of how well these do. Now, something I did find very interesting, as soon as I made the call, these things suddenly switched off their active noise cancelling. So I did go into the app just to check and see. I'll be throwing up a video here just to give you an idea of what's going on with the app. So the ambient sound control has completely gone off. It's grayed out. So when I tap on it, it says this feature is temporarily disabled because an audio call is ongoing. So it's not playing back the usual active noise cancelling, which means I can hear everything that's going on around me. It's playing back everything, which I'd say is a pretty good safety feature. So if you're on the road walking, if you're going for a walk in the evening or something or the other, it lets you know what's going on behind you, which is a pretty cool safety feature. But when you scroll further down, there is a voice aware feature, which is right now on low. So I'm going to toggle between these settings to see if there is any difference in the audio while speaking. So if the voice aware section is on low right now, I'm going on to mild, medium right now, which is mid. I can hear a lot more coming in right now, and I'm going to go on to high now. So the volume of what's around me has increased for me. I'm not sure how it will play back to you, who is the recipient right now. And what I'll do now is I'll switch off the voice aware as well. So right now I am here. It's complete isolation. So basically what the ear tips are doing, blocking out the outside noise is what's coming in. I can hear what's bleeding in through the isolation because I'm so close to this busy road. But there is no sort of transparency mode active at the moment. So I will switch voice aware on again on high. I think it was okay on low. So even if you're going on your walks and listening to music, I think keeping this on low is a good thing to do because it will keep you aware of your surroundings. And there you have it. This is the audio sample of the JBL Tune 230NC. I hope it has helped you in some way or the other make some sort of purchase decision. And of course, I will see you back in the studio. There's no mention on the JBL website about what codecs these support, but I think it's fairly safe to say that these will most probably only support SBC and AAC like every other earphone in this segment. And these also come with a surprisingly tiny 6mm dynamic driver. On a volume front, whether you listen to these at 50% or 5%, they don't really lose their mids or lower frequencies, which is quite impressive. I haven't really found the need to listen to any audio past 40 or 50% really because it seems rather adequate at that volume, and I wouldn't really recommend pushing these above 60% if you want to look after your hearing. Now when it comes to their soundstage, these stage like most other TWS earphones that I've heard, but these do seem to have a little more dimension. With some recordings, they tend to place vocals further back in the distance or closer forward depending on how the audio was mixed. Some tones do give you the illusion of them coming from further out, but in general, these do seem to have a wide stage, including a slight vertical stage with some tones. When it comes to their imaging, these are almost pin sharp. They're crisp and clear and make it very easy to decipher certain nuances in the audio you're consuming. Considering how well these image, they tend to be a little transparent, making bad audio recordings sound a little muffled compared to a well-recorded track. Surprising to get a pair of earphones at this price that are transparent, especially since they're wireless. High frequencies on these are certainly elevated but remain gentle, yet come at you with determined purpose. I haven't experienced any fatigue over longer listening sessions with these, and they've delivered these frequencies with detail and vigor. After cycling through various genres of music, I listened to the legendary track Cantaloupe, performed by Jeff Goldblum and the Mildred Snitzer Orchestra, and boy did these deliver. Every snare crash, every cymbal hit came through almost as enthusiastically as listening to this group performing live. When it comes to their mid frequencies, they do surprisingly well. The separation these have between every vocal or instrument shouldn't be this good on a set of earphones that cost as much as these do. No doubt there is a recess in the mids here, but they don't eliminate any male or female vocals to make them sound tinny. The full spectrum of vocals are heard, but in some recordings tend to sound a little further away in the distance. Harmonies are carried to you smoothly with a sense of elegance and grace. Listening to the Eagles' Take It Easy, the lead vocals performed by Glenn Frey do sit slightly in the back, making the instruments take more of a front stage, which makes listening to this track all the more enjoyable by getting you more involved with the music and not just the clear vocals. Lower frequencies can be a bit on the over-enthusiastic side, but not with every recording. It's punchy and full-bodied, and considering how present it is, it's eerie how it doesn't swallow up any of the mid frequencies while going full out on some recordings. It's tight and composed and not obnoxious like some other earphones I've tested in the past. Listening to Dr. Rocket's Cafe de Flore, the bass sounds large and really pulls you into the audio, but what's even more amazing is how well it doesn't eliminate any mid-range. Listening to Billie Eilish's Bad Guy, you'd think that her soft humming at the start of the track would go completely missing with the bass line playing in the foreground, or at least get a little muddy, but no, her voice stays crisp and clear, almost as if there are independent drivers handling the bass and the mids. These earphones sound pretty good straight out of the box, but moving on to their EQ modes, this has 5 pre-tuned ones which are jazz, vocal, bass, club and studio. I find these to be a bit on an extreme EQ setting, so haven't quite liked how these sound, but then again, to each his own. You might like any one of these or even enjoy tuning the custom EQ to your own choosing. I find most of these tunings to be a bit too thin or too boomy. What's really neat about the custom tuning is that you're not limited to just 3 points of tuning. You can add quite a few points to tweak, making these the most customizable earphones I've reviewed with an EQ setup. I have to say I'm quite impressed with how JBL has handled this on their app. I have made a custom setting that I enjoy, but I tend not to exaggerate frequencies. Now this is an even more subjective thing to talk about. Over and above sound, people have their own custom EQ settings, but if you would like to know about any of my EQ settings, at least when I do use them, do let me know in the comments below. Maybe I'll make an independent video about EQ settings in general instead of talking about what I've done with these specifically. So to sum up, all in all, these are a terrific set of earphones, but I think when it comes to the overall build, I'm not too taken with these, because I did review a set of Soundcores some time ago, maybe a year ago, and they have a matte finish on that, and it was very tastefully done. It didn't have a cheap plasticky look to it. This does tend to feel a lot more plasticky than premium, as I did mention, and I think JBL could have done a little bit extra to make it look a little better. Going the matte way is obviously nicer because you won't have your scratches and scuffs show like you would on your glossy finished cases, which tend to show age within just having them for a week. This, on the other hand, I think it'll only start showing its age many months later. When it comes to the features, I'm a bit surprised that it doesn't have wireless charging. Well, primarily because the Nothings have it, and one would think that these guys are targeting these at the Nothing, but I've got a feeling that JBL hasn't even considered them as competition, because these do, at least so far, I've not compared the two, but these do have a sense of being superior to the Nothings on many grounds. But the features, they seem to fall flat, because there is no wireless charging. There is also no play pause when you insert and remove the earphones from your ears, which is rather odd. The one thing that I find really interesting is the voice aware feature, because I have had a few people leave comments asking me about how much can you hear your own voice. Now, it's not something I really paid attention to, because I guess I'm comfortable with it. I've not really found it to be bothersome, but the fact that JBL has incorporated a feature like this in these earphones is quite remarkable. So I did try it out while I was doing the whole call test. Obviously, I did find that a lot of the frequencies that were going on around me were being let in, or they were being cut out a little further. So these are minor changes that you sort of toggle through, which you'll just have to use yourself and see how much of your voice bleeds in or it doesn't, and you'll have to find your personal preference before you finalize on a setting you like. One thing I did find a bit weird while testing these, the app seems a bit glitchy because every time I'd sync the earphones with my phone, I'd go into the app to see, if I could toggle between the ANC and do whatever else. Now it seems as if I could only click on the earphones when the background of the earphones was white. If it wasn't white, it wouldn't go into it. So keep tapping, nothing would happen. Quit the app, open it again, nothing would happen. Essentially, I had to put the earbuds back in the case, shut the case, or even put the Bluetooth off on my phone, switch it on again, let it connect all over again, and then the app would recognize it. So it is a bit glitchy that way. I'm sure they'll address something like this in a future software update. Otherwise, the app works reasonably well whenever I've operated it. It's not had any crashes. And it's pretty detailed. The amount of things you can go through and customize is actually pretty impressive. Now on an ANC front, I think most earphones now do a really good job, but these do have a pretty good isolation, at least for me. They fit reasonably well. I think fit will vary with people, but it's pretty comfortable with me. The active noise cancelling does cut out, my studio is very close to a very busy road. It does cut out a lot of the droning sounds of the engine. A lot of the traffic does cut down. Usually my fan motor makes a hell of a racket when the lights go off. It manages to cut out that droning or buzzing sound really well. I think it's similar to the Nothing. I won't say whether it's better or not because I'll have to do a back-to-back for that, and I'll leave that maybe for a future comparison. Now when it comes to the call quality in particular, this is again a very subjective topic. So I have provided the audio demo for you. If you've just skipped to this part and not seen that, try and go back to the call demo that I've done for the call quality. It'll give you a good idea of how well these do in that kind of environment. And it's safe to say if these do as well as they do in that kind of environment, they'll do that much better, in fact, in an enclosed space. So if you're in your room, if you're doing any of your team calls or whatever social platforms you're using for your office meetings and whatever else, if it's able to reduce noise at that level, it'll do that much better when you're in your home or in your office. And hopefully you can decide whether or not these earphones are good enough for you and your recipients for those phone calls that you'll be making. On a sound front, these have left me quite blown away. Now, I have not compared them to my Nothings. My Nothings have been my daily drivers ever since I got them, and I've got a feeling that these might replace them because the way they sound, I think, trumps every other flaw they have. I don't care about the way they're built. I don't care that they don't have any in-ear detection. I don't care that they don't have wireless charging, because for me, the way they sound trumps everything else. It's genuinely impressive that these sound the way they do with a tiny little 6mm driver. Everybody else is so obsessed with getting larger drivers. Like, I think Nothing's got a 11 point something mm. I tested the Oppo Enco Air 2 Pro, which has a 12mm driver, and this it shows that the size of a driver is not equal to the way it will sound. It all boils down to how they've been tuned. So I suppose I could do a comparison one day with all the different size drivers, and I'm pretty sure that this will be at Nothing Year 1 level or even slightly better. So how much do these cost? Well, at least at the time of recording, these are going for about 5,999 on the JBL website. But if you do go and check on Amazon or Flipkart, I think they're going for about 5,499 rupees here in India. So are these really worth it at this price? I'd say for them standing by themselves, they're an absolutely fantastic set of earphones. The price is definitely going to be fluctuating because I think these things drop in terrific value whenever there are one of those sales on Amazon and Flipkart. These earphones do lack a few features, but I don't think they're really features that would make or break the deal because they're not too significant. In-ear detection or wireless charging aren't that major for a lot of people. Not for me at least. I'm sure it'll vary for different people. But I'm interested to see how these will stand up against the Nothings, and I suppose I'd better get to work working on that comparison just to see which one's slightly better so I can decide which one's going to be my daily driver. So if you stay this long, I suppose you do like the content on my channel, and if you would like to support me, I'm sure you know exactly how to do that. But of course, thank you for tuning into Paul's POV for some sound advice.